Hello, students. Welcome back, more or less. Uh, we've been focusing online in the few weeks leading up to spring break, in particular on linear perspective. And we'll be turning in your cities and so on, depending on whether or not you were able to take your stuff with you in the next week or so. And we'll be discussing those as we can. But we are transitioning back to value and shape in terms of drawing. As most of you should remember, I start off the semester talking about the symbol we all have in our head for tree, which is sort of a poof ball with a stick underneath it. But no trees really look like that in real life, especially when you get close up. Now, to focus on value and shape and how they're organically formed around a tree, we usually in my class do a 2 or 3 week drawing outside where we zoom in very close on the trunk of a tree or a detail and draw it. Now, we won't be able to do that because we're not meeting in person, so I've sort of adjusted that project for distance learning. Now, as you'll probably remember, when we did the exercises around texture, value, and shape, drawing hair, water droplets, and so on, as well as the large group drawing we did together where we each drew sections of a black and white photograph, we simplified what we could see. If you take out the color information, think about it in terms of value rather than hue/color. Then we simplify the number of levels as if it was going through a Photoshop filter, like I'll show you here. Here is the same thing with the trunk of a palm tree, where you can see the fragmented palms and the fibers that break off as the palms break. Now, what I usually do is I have the students go outside on campus, pick a tree, and do eight thumbnail drawings, like quick little drawings of possible compositions of a close up of a tree. And then we pick from that, and they spend a certain amount of time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending on weather and how well the class is doing, drawing those compositions. I'll show you some examples of those drawings right now. Like I said, you're going to be doing something very similar, but adjusted for the distance situation we're in, which I'll talk about in a minute. Right now, I'd like to go over, remind you of some things I want you to keep in mind while you're working on this drawing. I want you to keep in mind the practice of sighting. Hold your pencil or drawing instrument out straight from your arm, and then check the relative proportions of the things you're drawing. Now, since we may or may not be drawing from life, depending on your situation, this might work slightly differently, but I want you to continually reference the relative proportion and position of things, especially at the beginning of your drawing. While you start your drawing, you should go from general to specific. There's a few different reasons for this. We've talked about it before. One is you want your drawing to have an overall cohesive feeling to it, but also you want to make corrections about the relative positions of the large information of your drawing, the big shapes, the big objects, and so on. So you get those right before you move on to the details. You don't want to do a beautiful rendering of a piece of bark and then find out it's 5 inches to the right of where it should be. So you want to go from general to specific and check your proportions as you go along. Think about the exercises we did around tear and texture and water and texture and value and shape. Break down what you're looking at when you're working on this drawing by value shape. Now, it doesn't mean the structure isn't important, but I really want you to focus most of all on mapping out the values. So if there's a dark blob, draw the dark blob, draw the medium-sized blob shape or whatever, draw the light area. You want to figure out these shapes of value because those shapes of value together will make a cohesive communicative drawing. And of course, I hope you remember when we did the exercise where we all drew sections of a photograph from Paris in 1968, how even things that look completely abstract and nonsensical, when you're close up, together form a cohesive whole. Value and shape is what we're going to be focusing on this tree drawing. And again, I'll talk about how we're going to do that in a moment. As I mentioned before, usually I take the class outside and we draw the trees in this sort of courtyard area in between the different fine arts buildings. We won't be able to do this time for obvious reasons. Now, your first option, and this is if you live in some place relatively safe, like you have your own yard or something like that, or you have a nice view of a tree close up from your window, where you can safely draw from life, feel free to do that. Go ahead and draw the tree from life. That's if you can do so safely. That's the first option. If you do this option, try to take a picture or something, or do a quick thumbnail of what you're drawing, and send that to me on Web Campus before you start your big drawing. Your second option is you can take one of the following photographs of trees close up and draw one of those for this project. I will also upload these as individual photograph files to Web Campus for you to use. So take a look at these trees close up and see which one you might be interested in drawing. We'll spend a couple weeks on this. I will upload before Wednesday at the absolute latest an assignment sheet or an assignment rubric for this for everybody. What you'll do is when you're done with this drawing, you'll take a photograph and send it to me, and I'll have some information about what might be the best way to do that. But you should spend at least as much time this week and next week working on this drawing as you would if you were working on the drawing in class. So basically, you should spend at least 6 hours this week and 6 hours next week working on this drawing. Again, you can contact me at most of the time, but I set office hours every day when I'll be, in particular, be available to talk to you. So keep an eye on Web Campus for the photographs of trees and for the assignment info laid out in text. If you have any questions, please get a hold of me. Thank you very much.